Guys, just look at this. What the hell are they doing? Just count those vehicles. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 vehicles. Oh my god. They freaking continue to attack Ukrainian army using long, big convoys. Well, this convoy, for example, it wasn't even capable to reach Ukrainian positions. All of those vehicles were kaputted on the way. A single tank and the rest are BMPs. Yeah, this is the tank at the lead of the convoy. Guys, they can... Oh my god, it's beyond craziness, beyond madness, or insanity you may call it. I don't have words even to describe it. Like, for the last couple of weeks, I continue to tell about those stupid Russian attacks, and they throw more and more reinforcements to the similar or same directions in attempt to get the ground. But it's not possible, it's physically not possible, because the front lines, they're being controlled by FPV drones, by surveillance drones, drone drops. Ukrainian army knows about each movement of every Russian vehicle. It's impossible to hide those elsewhere in the forest lines or forest patches like it was in the Second World War. Then there was no awareness about what is happening on the front lines, and armies could hide their iron fist groups with a bunch of the tanks. But now it's simply not possible. So Ukraine is getting ready even before Russians reach Ukrainian positions, while they're moving on their so-called controlled territory. Yeah, here's the same image, 9 vehicles of the Russian army. Here's the video from other perspective. This Russian convoy was spotted by Ukrainian 1st Azov Corps, as you might see, and let's watch this video at least partially. So Russians are moving to reach Ukrainian positions. They're eagerly going somewhere, but Ukrainian army opened the fire. Again, FPV drones, artillery this time also was used, and all of those vehicles were simply annihilated, completely dismantled on the way. And here is probably how Ukraine used some of the artillery systems. So yeah, that's the strike. Absolutely crazy. And again, it is a Pokros-Dobropilya direction. Russians tried to go to Shakhove, but this time their convoy was not stopped close to this village. No, they were absolutely demolished on the way. Yes, it was reported this time Ukraine used artillery fire quite significantly, more than usually. So it means that Ukraine knew about the possible Russian attack in this particular direction well before, and Ukraine pointed out artillery on specific patch of the road. So absolutely nothing was left from those Russian BMPs and from a single tank which was leading that convoy. And just look at this military map. Guys, I have never ever seen such huge vehicle losses for Russian army, and at this small patch of the front lines. So just yesterday I told you about those Russian vehicle losses, saying that, oh, those losses are really huge. But here we have again, this is the convoy. Those are the Russian army losses here. They were not even capable to reach the gray zone. This loss in Vladimirivka was few days ago, and this is the fresh one. So altogether in Pokros-Dobropilya direction and in Yablunivka direction, Russia lost already more than 50 vehicles for sure for the last couple of weeks. And I 100% tell you that Russia has started its massive offensive in attempt to break the major Ukrainian defense line once again. But how they conduct this operation, they're just wasting their resources. It is profitable actually for Ukraine, not for Russia. But the Russian military command, it seems like they're pretty much okay with the current situation. And I'm sure that Gerasimov sends his own information to Putin, delivering positive news, because he understands that not just his position depends on the situation on the front lines, but it could be even his life. Why am I sure that he gives this fake information to Putin? Because he was already seen with this fake military map, big, huge one presented on a military briefing, where Russians broke through Ukrainian defense here, fully encircled Pokrovsk, plus they went to Konstantinivka, fully occupied Kupiansk, and many more territories were taken. Even Russian military bloggers were telling that it's a bullshit. But that bullshit is delivered right on Putin's table in those official reports. I'm sure that high Russian military command knows about the very difficult situation for them in Pokrovsk-Dobropilya direction especially, but they really want to break Ukrainian defense by any sort of the cost. Vehicles, life losses, they don't simply care. I predict it's not the last Russian attack on Ukrainian positions. And you see, most of the losses, they're happening on so-called Russian-controlled territory in the red area. So Ukraine was capable to create this kill zone for the Russian army in Pokrovsk-Dobropilya direction especially, and one of our best drone operators are working there together with the best army groups, like the 1st Azov Corps and 93rd Assault Brigade. It is also happening because there is a political will from the Russian politician management, from Putin himself, to continue this war. Judging on those fake reports, Putin is sure that he could be victorious using military forces. But as we see, it's not working out well for Putin, at least right now. I'm sure that Putin thinks that he can break through Ukrainian defense at any moment, but it will not happen. We understand it. Everyone, I think even local commanders of Russian army, they understand the stupidity of those actions. But because of this incompetent leadership from the top, Russia will be forced to get more losses. And I think there will be the point then the Russian mobilization will be absolutely imminent. I think it is imminent. Also, Russian military bloggers report that there are not enough men who are willing to join the Russian army as volunteers. Yeah, still they're coming, but not enough. It is less. It is way less than in 2023 and 2024, and the trend goes down. So Russia will have no option rather than to conscript people. I think it could happen in 2026. And judging on the information coming from the opposition sources of Russia, they already started at least partially conscripting people. There are some messages coming through Gosuslugi. It's the online portal where Russia calls men to go to the conscription centers, otherwise their bank accounts could be blocked and they will be forbidden to exit the country. Russia changed its legislation to intensify this digital control. That's why I don't think that the war could be stopped in a close-by perspective, because Russia intensifies military actions on the front lines. Well, luckily, because of their incompetence, Russian attacks mostly fail. Well, still they go somewhere forward on the front lines, and in today's update I'm gonna tell you about those specific zones, but still they move very slowly. And guys, we have some of the great news coming from the Sumy region. As I promised to you, the situation for the Russian army in Alexeyevka is very bad. So you can see Ukraine liberated this part of the land, entered Alexeyevka, and Russia once again controlling just part of the settlement, tiny little part. And according to the Russian military bloggers who continue to tell about their catastrophic situation in the Sumy region, they'll have to leave Alexeyevka for good in the coming days if Russian military command wouldn't take immediate measures. But I think Russian military command is too concentrated on Pokrovsk-Dobropilya direction in vanishing their forces out there, so maybe they don't have extra reinforcements to send to Alexeyevka. I think Russians, after all, they don't care about Sumy region. It is here and there for them, because they even took the part of the forces from this place and sent them to the eastern Ukraine. So this direction for Russia is not that profitable, and Ukraine keeps initiative. An interesting case happened on the front lines. This local who was just riding his bicycle saw a Ukrainian drone, ground drone. He saw that the drone is disabled because it lost the caterpillar or track. This is the drone camera. So he took this piece of equipment personally and he tried to mend it back, to fix it. He managed to repair Ukrainian drone. Here we go. He took some sort of the wire over there in a gas station which is abandoned. This is the kill zone, and still some of the civilians, they live here. And here this drone is going back to Ukrainian positions. It's crazy how locals also help Ukrainian army. By the way, more and more of those ground drones I see on the front lines, especially in this kill zone, very close to the zero line of the actual fighting. As you see, this war is not a standard one. There are lots of the drone technologies, and our allies from NATO, they should reform their armies right now. Yeah, it happened very close to Konstantinovka direction over here. And by the way, I want to tell you about the update. So here Russians, they're not using those huge convoys and they assault with small infantry groups. And you see that they're already touching Konstantinovka from the eastern flank. If we check out the Miko 73 update, definitely they expanded the gray area. Yes, it's not yet red because Russians are acting with the sabotage forces and the main forces are staying behind for now. But Ukraine successfully is using some of the drone strikes on the Russian positions, nearly taken positions. Yeah, I cannot show you this entire video, but there was quite a nice building which was kaboomed by Ukrainian army because Russians took it under control and of course locals left it. This is exactly this spot and this is this building, yeah. Now Russians are trying to use aviation gliding bombs, but Ukraine seems to be working on some of the interceptors of the Russian gliding bombs. So what kind of those could be? Hard to say. Maybe some of the missiles or could be even drones. Speaking about the front lines, Russians also sent the sabotage groups inside Pokrov, so there was the battle between Russian army and Ukrainian one. Already, as you can see, the part of the settlement is in the gray area. This is not a good sign. So Russians are failing in this direction. Pokrovsk-Dobropilya, where very capable Ukrainian armed forces are operating, but here in Pokrovsk the situation, I would say, yeah, for now it's still controllable. Their supply lines, they are not yet been cut for Ukraine, but the sign is not good. Well, Russians are trying to get Pokrovsk for already how long? 1 year, more than 1 year. I personally expected Pokrovsk to fall the last winter, but I was wrong with my prediction about this one. Russians are simply unable to move their main forces. You see, then they try, they have absolutely huge losses. Guys, again, I have never ever seen those kind of the pictures in such a short time period. So many vehicles. It's just crazy. I think that the losses for the Russian army for the last 10 days here, they are bigger than for Ukrainian army during the initial phase of the counteroffensive operation of 2023. Then Ukraine tried to break through the main Russian defense line in Robotyne and many other parts. Yeah, as we know, Ukrainian counteroffensive failed, but the Russian offensive here, well, it also fails and maybe even more miserably. Russians are using rocket artillery systems to hit Ukrainian positions, but again with the help of the surveillance drones, Ukraine was capable to trace the Russian Smerch rocket artillery. That's the biggest rocket artillery system Russia has, and it was annihilated. So destroyed, kaboomed, kaputted, also with the help of the drones. You can see the detonation of those rockets of the system. It happened in Kherson direction. Alright, and we have the information about multiple of the kabooms happening in Crimea. Just right now, Gvardievka is on fire. There is the oil storage. The same thing goes for Jankoy and some other area. We even have Ukrainian drone image published already. Here we go, this is the facility, Russian local storage. It is on fire. This is Gvardievskaya Simferopol, the place with the Russian military base. As you may see, it is absolutely gone. Ukrainian drones are hitting everything very, very precisely. There is one oil tank that was hit, but fire already spreads among them all. So the next tank, according to my information, is already on fire. Ukraine really wants to get rid of the Crimean oil and fuel infrastructure. So Yevpatoria, we have reports on fire, as well as Jankoy too. Yeah, here we have the video from the dashcam in Crimea. So one has the model of the fighter jet. By the way, we have some of the interesting news about the Russian fighter jet. So there is the fire of this facility. Interesting. So about the fighter jet, Russia shut down its own airplane Sukhoi Su-30SM over Crimea. The airplane was hunting Ukrainian drones but received the Russian missile right in the butt. A Russian military blogger fighter bomber affiliated with the Russian Air Force confirms this information. Sukhoi Su-30SM fighter jet crashed while on a mission to destroy drones On one of the Lautian, so in Crimea, it was flying. Preliminary reports indicate that after launching a missile at the drone, the fire broke out on board. The crew was unable to extinguish, the crew ejected, and all are fine. Commission is out there to determine the cause of accident in this case, but we already know that it was the Russian missile. And even here, this fighter bomber states that probably it was hit by fragments of own missile rocket. Well, in any case, minus one more Russian airplane because of the Ukrainian drone attack together with this refinery. Russia simply has more losses, not just infrastructure, but also their aviation is suffering. It's pretty much good for Ukraine. Also, there are multiple reports on territory of Russia itself. This is the factory of Avangard that produces some of the military components, was hit today. Samarskaya Oblast, Russian Federation, you can see the substation, electrical substation is on fire. Yeah, some of the drones probably visited the place or someone smoked at the wrong place at the wrong time as usual. Happens in Russia. Samara is the place of the Russian military airfield Angels, and there's lots of the infrastructure for Ukraine to aim to, including one of the biggest Russian oil refineries that was already hit multiple of the times. Meanwhile, Russia is preparing for one more strike on Ukraine from Ukrainka airfield. Yeah, that's the name of the airfield from the Soviet Union times. It is located at the far east of the Russian Federation. They sent their strategic bombers to Angels and to Alenia airfield, so they gonna arm their strategic bombers and probably gonna use them this night or the next one. Russia tries to aim Ukrainian energy infrastructure. For today there were lots of the blackouts reported or limitations to use electricity and gas in many of the regions of Ukraine, including Kiev region with the Kiev city. And this winter the situation could be even worse for Ukraine, but Ukraine also hits Russian logistics and Russian energy. Just the scale is different. Russia is way bigger than Ukraine, and for Ukraine it's harder to hit Russian logistics. And again, there is no sign for Russia to stop their strikes on Ukrainian infrastructure. Moreover, they start to expand their capabilities to use strategic aviation. For example, they're building the new apron, which is going to be defended this time against drone strikes in Angels airfield. Here's the part of apron, and they are building the new stands not far away. Here they want to build the huge barriers and hangars. They plan to finish this at the beginning of the next year. Well, it's interesting. For the first time, Russia tried to use their naval drone. They also have those in development, in tests, but Russia is also capable to produce their drones. Well, this one was spotted by Ukraine and somehow kaboomed. The location is not specified, but I guess it happened not far away from Odessa. Also, it is not specified of what particular Ukraine used to get rid of this drone. The problem for Russia with those drone technologies is that it doesn't have the legal access to communication devices, like for example Starlink or alternate devices. Ukraine has those and uses them in combination. So for example, if the signal is lost for the Starlink, Ukraine has different type of communication. Well, maybe not that precise, but still operators are capable to control the direction of the drone boat and operate its systems. As you can see, Russians are at the beginning stage, and Ukraine is still capable to find out those drones and kaput them. Awesome job, of course, but the thing that Ukraine doesn't have those kind of the navy ships almost at all. So what Russia wants to kaput with those drones, honestly hard to say. For Ukraine, there are multiple of the targets, but for Russia, can they target commercial ports with that? Ukrainian grain ships or something? Maybe, yeah, maybe that's the plan of the Putin's terror, and that's why they make those kind of the drones. This step for Russia is pretty much expected. Okay, Russia still continue to hire Nepalese people to their army. Why they're coming there, I'm out of clue, but here you can see some sort of the hole in the school, and Nepalese people are trying to deal with those Kalashnikovs on the training. Yeah, it's kind of stupid to join the Russian army actually, especially right now with the losses they have. I don't see any sort of the perspective. In 99% of the cases, those soldiers, they don't have even the opportunity to shoot from their Kalashnikovs, because they're being kaputted on the way by Ukrainian drones, artillery and long-range tools. Ukraine rarely fights with Russians in the trenches or direct fight. It happens, yeah, and there is the video published recently today, which I cannot show you. There was the encounter where Russian soldiers just walked with all of their heights and were met by Ukrainians. Russians were KIA, so it happens, yes, but not everywhere. And in more than 80% of the cases, soldiers receive their wounds from shrapnel, drone shrapnel or shells. Shrapnel coming from artillery. Bullets, not very often. Those are the Russian conscripts, volunteers, it's better to say, who want to become who want to become millionaires. That's the face of the Russian millionaire, a classical one. He says, we'll come back with a victory. Good luck with that. Good luck. I think that many Russians, they continue to live in their parallel reality, saying that they're immortal or something, and the war is like on TV. On Russian TV, they will tell them that the war is fine, we are winning, enemy has more losses than we, we take care about our soldiers, everything will be fine with you, just go and fight. But reality, as you know, realities are completely different, especially recently with those crazy attacks in Pokrovsk-Dobropila direction. Russians absolutely have no chances to maintain their lives, and those guys, they go for unlimited period of time. Yeah, they might receive their millions of rubles, but mainly it's one-way ticket for them, ticket to hell. My friends, by the time I'm recording this video, the meeting between Zelensky and Donald Trump has just started. So I will wait a little to see the result of their meeting. I know about the news about the possible meeting between Donald Trump and Putin once again. They are planning to do it in Budapest, but I'm not sure whether this meeting is possible. Also, I know about Donald Trump's comments to Putin, how he is very cheerful to him once again. So again, there was the total reset and the Russian firmware installed. Well, hopefully Zelensky is better programmer in this case, and he potentially may reset Donald Trump once again, as it happened the last time. Donald Trump, he's just changing all the time. He's not consistent at all. So for me, I would say it's kind of early to comment on that, on those Tomahawk missiles and so on. That's why this video in particular is dedicated to frontline updates and kabooms happening. In my next video, of course, I'll sleep a little and I'll wake up and record special video for you, telling everything about Donald Trump, because we have so much information also published by legacy media of how the previous meeting between Donald Trump and Putin went. We have so many details. I want to tell you that, but we need full context, and for that I need to wait a few hours. My friends, in my previous video I filmed about this Prigozhin's double in Switzerland, basically a citizen of Latvia, who attacked Ukrainian family in the train. Well, actually the family is partially Ukrainian. Actually, this guy who is a husband of the lady who was filming, and they had very little child. Well, he is not Ukrainian, he is ethnically Belarus, but he was born in Switzerland and he actually has a Swiss passport. But the Latvian guy was working as a cook in a restaurant, in one of the restaurants of the Zurich airport. Well, he was already dismissed from his job and was detained. According to a report from the Kyiv Post, it is referred to the information coming from Swiss police. So thank you guys for sharing the information. We need to show that this kind of the behavior is not acceptable, and I really envy this guy for his nerve. I wouldn't wait for such a long period of time, but the way he behaved actually made a single person guilty, a person who escalated everything of that, supporter of Putin and the massacres that Putin does in Ukraine. And he threatened, and this Latvian man, if you may call him Latvian because he's ethnically Russian, he threatened to unalive those people. Also a citizen of Switzerland, because he is really citizen, this Belarus guy, ethnic Belarus, but he was born in Switzerland and all of the time lives there. What is also interesting that this Latvian guy was traveling with a Ukrainian refugee from Odessa. An interesting company he has. So what is up to that refugee who has those kind of the friends? Why did she not move to Russia but to Switzerland? Because it seems like she likes Russia a lot if she has those friends. By the way, it was not the only case with this Latvian individual. Ukrainian Foreign Ministry already commented this case, as well as Latvian authorities were informed about it. And potentially Latvian authorities even could expel this guy from the citizenship and send him to Russia if he returns back to Latvia. But they may cancel his citizenship if he likes Russia so much, because there were the cases. Latvia is very strict with that because they have those kind of the Russian watniks living there, and they try to minimize the threat of the Russian influence inside their own country. Well, it's actually great that we were able to create this pressure for authorities to act as fast as possible, and judging on this article, definitely the guy was detained and now is being investigated and for sure will be prosecuted for the threats he expelled openly, not just to those people but also to very small, to baby basically. It is absolutely not acceptable, and for sure those kind of the individuals, they should be isolated from society for a very long time, in the best case even forever, or send them all to Russia if they like Russia that much. And for sure that particular individual will not find any kind of the job on territory of developed Europe. So maybe going to Russia is the only option for him from now on. Yeah, after he spent some time in prison, but if he applies for the Russian citizenship, he also should conscript to the Russian army. And guys, I record this video without this big fancy microphone, and tell me whether you like the sound of this invisible microphone, which is now not in the frame. Maybe the sound is not that good, but the picture itself, I guess, is more clean. And my friends, if you can and if you want, you may support my job on Patreon. The link for it is in the video description just below, or you can follow me on membership of this YouTube channel. Because of you, your support, I'm capable to produce content every day. My friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.